Uh, Timmy, I think you have disabled my screen sharing. Timmy,
I have given you back access.
okay. Let me know if you see my screen. Good. You should see it by now.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. So morning, everybody. We would continue from where we did last week. Last week we talked on resources. So let me take you through resources a little bit before we then kick off into. So uh, in assemble of in an activity, assemble and install cross-sectional area A. If you want to add resources, have three things in mind. What type of resource? A resource is either labor, which is human resource. It could also be capitals. It can be just ordinary costs, and that's a non-labor resource. Just ordinary cost or hours. That's non-labor resource. Um, then you have materials, which is material resource. So if you want to create, you go to enterprise resource and you have different types of resource. This is a material, this is labor. If I just want to put costs and just say uh, 50,000 lump sum for this project, it's a lump sum irrespective of what you do, you're spending 50,000. So it doesn't belong to a particular person. So that's more like a non-labor. So let me put that there so that you have an idea about it. Of course, I'm going to change the display to all. Okay. So I'm going to put just costs. Uh, costs. Uh, costs, and make it unique. So there is a cost there already. So I'll just say cost T, that's cost training. Some um, Saxony, and I'll put it non-labor, um, pound sterling. So yeah, I have set a non-labor. So I'm going back to my activities. I would add, I want to add lump sum, and the lump sum is just 50,000 pounds. So if you notice three things, he didn't change the hours. I can change the hours to zero and say I'm not concerned about hours, and just say, oh, this is a lump sum, 50,000, um, 50,000 pounds for that activity. But I need to add project manager as well. And the project manager is going to take 40 hours. So with respect to the original duration is the duration, the actual duration that we give to we calculated. Don't forget how we derive the calculations of duration. So having put this, I also let me put materials. I need one material. Yeah, let me put materials. So we have materials, we have non-labor, and we have labor. three different categories. Now, if you notice for the lump sum, I'm not particular about the hours, but I'm particular about the cost. For the resource, labor resource, I'm particular about both the hours, I'm not particular about the cost. Uh, and for the materials, I'm particular about the tons. If you look at it, it's just straight to the tons. I'm particular about the tons. I'm not particular about the cost. So for resource, there are three factors that you need to put on the table. The type of resource, labor, non-labor material. Two, the budget, unit budget. If it's for man hours, unit budget. If it's for non-labor, then it's the third part is the cost. So we have for every resource, we have the time, the unit, the cost, and we also need the duration. We also need the duration. Now, this is calculated with the rate, and this is where it can be tricky. Unit time, and I said 40 hours, but I said 8 hours per day. So with logic, using ordinary logic, if you say someone is meant to work 8 hours a day, is standard hours, agreed hours with the HR, or agreed contract hours is 8 hours a day, it means that logically he cannot, for 5 days, he cannot work more than 40 hours. If he works more than 40 hours, then he's not working 8 hours a day. If he's working 8 hours a day, it cannot be more than 40 hours for 5 days. Simple logic. Now, if he works more than that, every other hours outside that becomes an overtime. So if I say he's going to work 200 hours, so what I have automatically said is that he's going to work 40 hours a day. 40 hours a day. I mean, that is more than crazy. But let's assume that we agree that it's 40 hours, 5 days. We can either do two things. We can either do an arithmetic ratio, 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day is for 5 days is 40 hours. If it's going to be 200 hours, then we have to divide it by eight. We have to divide it to get about, so for 8 hours is 40. Let me do my calculation. That would be 8 hours is 40, then 200 hours would be, where's my calculator here? 8 hours is 40. That's 200. So that would be about 25 days. And if I take it 25 days, if you notice the unit per time has changed back to 8 hours, meaning that under reasonable hours, under reasonable time, it will take about 8 hours a day to complete. 200 work will be 25, 200 hours spent will be 25. But if you notice, the budgeted cost did not change and the 5 tons did not change. Why? The tons doesn't necessarily need to change because we have 0 tons. We didn't make any calculation of how many tons it should. We could make that calculation, but I don't think that's the driver. The driver is the project manager. Uh, and because the driver is the project manager, we have allowed just the project manager's time to drive everything. But if you look at lump sum, irrespective of 8 hours, 25 days, 5 days, it all still falls within 50,000 pounds. Sometimes your manager or your team might say, could you please show us all the money that we have for this job? So how do I show them all the money? Don't forget, lump sum is non-labor project manager is labor, and we have material. So if I'm going to the cost, I want to show them all the costs, becomes all the budgeted, all the materials, all the non-labor, and I can bring out all the total costs. So how did I find this? I went to the columns, which is here, or I right click, go to the columns here, and they're asking me for all the costs. So I'm going back again, all the costs. I've gone to the costs. I'm going to the budgeted cost. What was budgeted? Labor, material, non-labor, total. As usual, like I said, I can put my mouse here and move it and create more space, create more space here. Like, so I've told this to be the first, but I don't want that to be the first. I could move this back. So the project ID, so it's telling me that all the budgeted is 50,000 for non-labor, and the total is 50,000. It means that for the labor, we haven't put any costs for the labor. We haven't put any cost for the labor, but let's hold fire on that. We would come to that in detail. In fact, I would create a day where we would look into how to put cost into the labor and how to allow the system to calculate that for you. And that's when we'll be talking about bottom up, top down estimate, giving you an estimate on how to try that. So, but I've given you a few of columns and how to put the columns there. What if there are what if there are four projects going on together and they agreed that you need to collect a relationship from one project, link it up to this project so that you'll be able to, one project to be driving the other project. All you need to do is make sure that within the enterprise system, which is where we are, this is the enterprise, you have the projects already there. So I have one, two, let me put Saratoga Senior Community is going to be linked to wind farm construction. Don't forget how to select. Selecting a project, you either click on it, multiple projects, you press your control button and take your mouse um, to the second project you want to click on. That becomes two. Right click, do it again, click on one, press down the control button, click on the second, right click, open project. So you're opening two projects at the same time. I want to check if I have done that. I'll collapse all and I will see two projects, Saratoga Senior Community, Sea Green Wind Farm Construction. Don't forget what I said about the plus sign. Once you have the plus sign, you can break it down. You can break it down by clicking on it, and it takes you to the WBSs. Yeah, from the WBSs, I'm beginning to click on the plus sign, which changes to the minus sign. Minus sign means that I've cascaded everything down. So assuming this complete project needs to be linked to, and this is 2015, which is done quite a long time. Assuming this project is that we need to finish this project before we then start before we then start this project, job start. So let me look at this. I'll go back again and say, okay, we according to what the management has decided, the program manager, there's multiple, looking at multiple projects and saying, look, uh, planner, we can't do this job because we don't have the people. And the job here is we have to do, they are doing slabs, and the other job is also building, which they have to do slabs and roofing. And so we need the guys to finish here to before we then go to these guys here to start their project. So how do I do that? I will click on this. I'll hold down the shift button as usual. Hold down the shift button if you are clicking multiple, if you want to pick multiple projects, you hold down the shift button, sorry, the control button. If you are clicking multiple activities or multiple projects or multiple WBSs, but they are at different places, you hold down the shift button. If they are all clustered together, you can hold the shift button and just click the beginning and the end, and it picks everything up. But if I just need just one, and I'm going to another place far away, but they are all multiple activities, then I hold the shift button and then click down and say, come here, do the same thing I need to do, right click, click on relationship, and I've said finish start. That is this project finish, then this project should start. So let me look at the relationship. I'm going to click on just one. So it's telling me project ID EC00C30, which is another project entirely, is linked to this, and it's linked to another project called EC0010. So these are two projects, different projects linked together. Um, and that is how we link two projects. But the other thing we haven't done, which we have to do, is then effect the change. And if I'm going to effect the change, this is 2015. So if I just schedule and just say, oh, 2011, I may not feel the change over here because this is 2023. 2011, 2015 to 2023, there will be no impact because that is about a gap of about 10 years. So when I reschedule the project, I won't feel any impact. However, if I want to feel an impact, I'm going to assume that this project is going to start today. And if it's going to start today in 2000 and this is 2011 to 2003, that's about 4 years. If it's going to start today, then it means that it will take about 4 years. That's 2020, 28. This project will finish in 2028. So I will expect that because this will finish in 2028, this should start driving this project to start 2028 because that would be an impact. So let me say it's going to start today. How do I make that work? I would put these 2000 and today is 2023. Today's date is December 2nd, 8 o'clock in the morning. Select. So I'm going to say start today and let's see the impact. So that's finished about 2027, June 2027. We've said it should start today. So it's ending June 2027. Now let's go to the relationship, uh, job starts. So did you notice that job start 2027? It's job finish. Let's look at the reason why job finish is not moving. The reason is because there is no relationship with job finish. Cost management, there is no relationship. And so it means that this project, wind farm, is the relationship work is not yet completed. And if the relationship is not yet completed, we can't justify the finish date. Hence, the reason why the finish date is 2023, but the job start is 2027. But what is driving that? Let's look at what's driving it. We go to relationship, predecessor, and it takes me down to this project. Now, I'm going back again to just picking one project. So I've gone to the project section. I'm going back to the project section. I'm just picking only one project, open that, and it's just this project. There is nothing I can do, despite the fact that it's in 2023. When I press on it and say schedule, schedule means um, push the date, allow relationships to push the dates to tell us when the project will finish, when the project will start. Despite the fact that I clicked on just one project and the data date, I've told it to start on the 2023. When I schedule it, it still goes to 2027, despite the fact that it's just this project that is open, not two projects. And the reason is because every relationship within the project, whether it's coming from external or internal, still impacts your project. So you have to be careful about defining what your project is. Now, for us to really go forward, I need to make sure that all the relationship is complete. And so I'm going to do some due diligence on all the relationship to make sure that it's complete so that I'm able to have a proper program. So let me rush and do um, some due diligence, delivery, delivery of these. So the delivery should deliver all section should come before, okay, deliver, that's logistics. So it's come before this link. And after delivering this, we're going to deliver all these instructions. I'm going to link all these and say every five days, every five days they should deliver. So one per week. Let me know if you feel there's anything I'm doing that is just too fast for your liking. So why am I putting 5 days lag? I'm making my own personal justification as a planner, uh, that when I spoke to the procurement team have said that it will take each week for them to deliver one section per week. So I've put that and say each week, one section per week. That's moved to 2027, I know. Uh, then ceiling harmonic, sound field. Okay. I want to do something that I've not done before, so please pay attention. I noticed that this is still an ammonic filter quality complete, and I don't want it again. But there is a relationship here that uh, I I still need. Let me put this here. Hold on. Sorry. And is driving D is driving this, and I'll say harmonic complete. Still high. Okay. So all this should be linked to completion. So all this should be linked to completion. So I'm going to click on complete, link to this, link to this. So I've modded up the water, and let me see what the outcome is going to be. Okay, now I noticed that this activity is no longer needed, but the relationship, this linking to the predecessor linking to the successor is still needed. And I don't want this activity anymore, but I want this relationship to link with this. One of the ways to take away an activity without allowing these two to link up with themselves is we use the button called, we use the um, command called dissolve. So I would right click, and when I dissolve this, it says, no, please note, once you dissolve this, you cannot undo, meaning that you cannot Control Z or Control Y, which would have worked in other cases. But in this case, dissolving wouldn't undo it. So once I take this away, I would go to delivery section 1, and I want it to link, I want to check if it's linked to uh, tracking sand field 2. So once I dissolve, I'm going to tracking sand field 2. So you see, delivery of section 1 is still there. It's linked directly to this. And I'll check for 1, 2, delivery of section 1 is still there. So if you notice, it means that you can dissolve an activity by, you can delete an activity by using dissolve and maintain the relationship. Also with this, I want to take this away. I don't want it anymore. It's not longer needed. I just need one quality check. I don't need multiple quality checks. So I can click on the delete button. Once I click on the delete button, I'm going to 5 and 3 to see what happened. So delete, yes. I'm going to 5 and 3. So 5 and 3 does not have any predecessor. Okay, this has the predecessor of 4, but 3 doesn't have any predecessor because I have deleted its predecessor. So we have just one predecessor, and that's how to delete a predecessor. So I'll say 2 Sanfield 2 should link to Sanfield 3, and both of them to link. When I click on schedule, it schedules it. That's one of the ways to schedule, and that's linked to cost management. I don't want cost management again, so I'm taking all the cost management away. I'm deleting that. That's how to delete, and that's how to put costs. What about this? I don't want this. It's linked to D. Where is D? I want to go to where D is, so I click on this. It takes me to D. I really don't want D, but I also don't want to delete relationship, so I will dissolve. I will dissolve this. Delivery section, I want it to still link to assembly and install. I want predecessor to link to, but I don't want A, so I'm taking away A. Okay. Now, there are two ways to schedule. You could schedule by clicking this, but if you go to option, there is a button that says schedule automatically when a change affects date. if I click on this, what that means is once I put any activity, let me let me put let me click on it and then we'll see that schedule. Once I put any activity there, once I put any activity there, it's going to schedule it without even asking me any questions. So I'm going to put an activity, DS, trial version, finish. Now, how many days? 5 days. Allow this to affect this. Did you see? Straight away, it's changed it to 2027, 5th of July, without me pressing the ideally I should press the schedule button and then it schedules it. But this time around, it just goes straight. So that's a setting that you can use. Please play about with the setting. Level resource. If I click on level resource, which I will do that now. Let me click on that so that you see what happens with the resource. So let's say I've clicked on the trial version and I'm saying it's going to close on the automatically that has been set. Um, let's go to we just have only 50,000. Let me try and put more resource. I'm going to add lots of resource now. Assemble, we need a project support, and I'll need a project manager. And I'm going to be, I click on the two by using the control button. I might say I need a safety, I need a project support, I need this, which is 3. I've used the shift button and I'm going to click. I'm going to click. I will need it for this. I'm clicking on resource. For tracking sand fill, let me say I need a plumber. I'll hold my shift button. I need a carpenter. Uh, I need an excavator, and I need an operation, and I did this. So I've put 5. It's telling me that's too much. Well, no, it's not telling me that's too much. I think there is, yeah, the reason is because it's a zero duration, and because it's zero duration, you need at a minimum of 1 hour to be able to put resource. I mean, that's reasonable because you can't you can't put resource with zero duration. So if you notice, the plus sign is back because this is 5 days. So I'm clicking 5 days here, and for this, I'm going to click 5 days or so, and I'm going to click 5 days. Last week I told you another way to add resource is you can click on what you want to resource, or you can click one of them, right click, assign resource, um, project manager or fabricator. I'll click on this. Now, once I'm satisfied with this, and I want to put resource for the next 2, I can go to add resource. I've clicked on this, so I'm going to just click on these 2 people and just click on add, and straight away, or if I go there, oh, sorry, let me repeat that again. Add resource. So it's clicked on the fabricator. So I'm going to this 2. I'm going to click on add. And here, okay. Okay. So that's that about relationship. That's that about resource. I will come back to resource, like I said. But the purpose why I put all the relationship together was because I wanted to show you some critical things, which is called the floats. So we have two major type of floats: free floats, well, total float. The purpose of a free float is that in between two activities, when there is a finish start, I want to bring the Gantt chart closer. So I don't need to go to 2027. I don't need to keep scrolling like this to 2027. I just need to double click beside and it brings me closer. Let me make sure there is a relationship. Okay, there is no relationship here, and I need to make sure there is a relationship here. So um, let me do a due diligence before I go to the next step. The due diligence is that I'm going to look at predecessors and successors to make sure that there is predecessors for all my work and there is successor for all my work. Sorry, list predecessors. A good program should have predecessors for all its work and successors for all. So I've noticed I don't have a successor here. I could do that by clicking on that and say link it to the finish of the project. I don't just do that without proper project starts. Okay. I think, yeah. So all my all my activity has a predecessor and successor. So I'm going back again. I don't need predecessors and successors. I'm finished with that. I'm happy with where I am now in terms of relationship. And so because the relationship is there, I can then start doing other analysis on float. So I'm bringing you to float because I needed you to understand that once there is a relationship, there has to be the effect of a relationship within your program: finish, 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 start, start, finish, and things like that produces two major things: a free float and a total float. A free float is in between two activities, in between a successor and a predecessor. Um, there is always a gap, and the gap can be because you put a lag. Don't forget, a lag is that it's a deliberate duration you put in between two activities to say A should finish and then give B some leeway to before it starts. Like we have laid the foundation and we have to give a leeway to for the council to come and inspect, and then the council will take 1 day to inspect. That's if it's in America, it takes 1 day inspect and then do the next work. So that leeway, you may not want to put that activity there and say council comes to the site to check. You can just put it in lag. So a lag is a deliberate float you put, and we don't call it float because it's deliberate. It's not calculated by the software. But a free float is that you in between two activities, you have a free allowable duration in between two activities. And that means that you can start later, you can have a late start and a late finish, or an early start and an early finish. Now let's look at that. This dates. This is early start. I'm going to late start, late finish. So a free float tells you how late another activities would start or finish before it start affecting the other dates. Now look at this is free float of 170 days. And let me look the reason why that. Okay, it goes from July and goes straight to the finish date. And so the system is telling us that though you can start on the 27th of July, you have on until you have up till the 28th of you have up 28th of February to do the job. If you don't do it before the 28th of February, you're definitely going to affect the finish date. So it's telling us that the next relationship will be affected after the 3rd of March. If you don't do finish it on the 27th, you can still continue delaying on and on till the 3rd of March 2028 before your project is affected. And that's the reason behind the free float. All this shows that you don't have any date. And that's why you still see the late finish is 12th of July, the start is still 12th of July. What that means that you don't have any date in between. If you don't have any date in between to be able to do any of this job. If you delay by 1 day, the whole job, the whole finish date is going to be in a mess. And that's what this means. This means you have 70 days in between activity, 50 days in between. But if you look at total float is for the whole project. And why do we need total float for the whole project? For the whole project, what that could mean is that you might have 5 days for the whole project. That after 5 days, if anything happens, your project is going to be delayed. There is more to this, but I need you to understand that there is something called free float and there's something called total float. There's more to it because your boss can come back and say, please hide spending plan budget dates here. Please hide some date for me. I don't want them to finish this date. I don't want them to finish. I don't want them to finish on the I don't want them to finish on the 28th. Okay, I want you to show that they should finish on the 28th of March, but actually it's supposed to finish in June. Can you hide any date? This is where you put a must finish by and say 28. Let me put it in June or April. So indirectly, I've put it in April, and I'm going to go back and say, so if you notice, the late is what? 28th of April, but the finish is March. And don't forget, I showed them, all I need to show them is the finish, the start and the finish. All I need to show everybody is the start and the finish. It's only me and the project manager or the overall director that has left this to be 28. So what was 0 now became 35 because between March and April is 35. And that could only be possible when I went to must finish by. If I take this away, normally I should have scheduled before I'm able to see the results. I should have scheduled before I see the results, but because I've put automatic, it's just doing that directly for me. And if you notice, it's saying total float is 0. But if I put it back, I'm repeating myself because I need to show you this and say 28th of April 2028. The finish start is March. The must finish by is 28. And I'm going back again to activities. It's giving me a total float of 34 days. However, we have a free float of 0, which means that between this date and this date, between original start and original finish is still 0. Between the float, between this activity and between this activity and the next activity, the succeeding activity is still 0. This 34 only came from must finish. And this is what we then define the critical part. Now, the critical part is all gone, which is the next thing I'm going to show you. The critical part is when an activity is zero and it becomes critical. So I'm going to take back my, now, if you notice, this becomes red. We gave it the code, a code red, which indicates something like danger. Danger is That's a danger to the project, and what that really means is that uh, the free float is zero. The total float is zero. When something is zero, what that implies is that if anything affects the preceding activities, that's activities at the back of all these, that is zero. If anything affects this date, it will push this date, and this date will push the succeeding date, and the succeeding date will definitely push the total finish date. So anything that will affect the total finish date of a project, the finish date of the project, becomes a critical activity. Anything that will affect it becomes a critical activity. That's a basic understanding. There are more to it. There are standard requirements that could change it to critical. But the general consensus or the general understanding is anything that would affect the finish date, the total that would impact the total finish date, becomes a critical activity. Now, when you have a critical activity, you have it in form of red. And when you don't have a critical activity, it means that this date is not going to affect the total, when the project will finish. Why won't it affect the project's finish date? Is because between this time to the time the project will finish, there is more space. And let's look at that. There is more space. We have a space of about 50 days. There is more space to it, hence the reason why we wouldn't have it as um, a critical date. Now, let's go back again. How do we then define a Gantt chart? Let's go into Gantt chart. A Gantt chart, this is the bar. An actual finish date will change to blue. Remaining work or works that are not finished will be green. We define it that way. And the remaining work that could be critical becomes red. If you want to go back to understanding it, just right click, go to the bars. Remember last week I went to the option time scale. I went up here and said the calendar should be month or weeks, weeks or shift, financial year. You can change that as much as you want. So I can put years and months, and that changes it to years and months. But for the for the bars, I could say level of effort should be this. Uh, Critical should be this. I want to change the color from green. Remaining should be this. I want to change the color from this to this color. I could do that. So I have the leeway to make that options. It's just the only question you will have is, if I do that, would people understand what I have done? If the answer is yes, then you can do that. If the answer is no, then I would advise you stick to this convention. I can add, let me click on that. I've added new one, and I'm going to call it Magnus. And I'm saying the current bar or percentage complete bar or plant or primary, anyone I want. Okay, total, the float bar for all activities. Uh, for remaining activities, let me see. Do I have remaining activities here? Okay, let me just put for all activities, and I want it to be just this. apply. So where I have 170, rather than because it's a float bar, that's where I have floats. What I did is where I have floats in my activities. Let me go back again. So float bar, meaning where I have floats in my activity. For all activities where I have float, that's what I said, and that's what I did. So for all activities that have float, please show it as light blue. So this has 170, this one has 70, this one has 50, this one has 50. So now I know the activities that have floats. Um, I don't want that again. I just want my green back. Then I could go here and just say, not that I want to delete it, but I don't want it again. So I click here and say, okay, please just maintain this. So activities that is 5 days is shown as 5 days. If I wanted it to show is 70 days, 170 days, it should just produce the long bar of 170 days and things like that. Now, that's that about bars, but there are more to it, and I would want you to. I keep saying there are more to it because I want you to play about with it, get to your own crossroad. This is where you would understand it the more. Get to your own crossroad. Your boss might come and say, please take away all the summaries. I don't want all the summaries. Summary defines all the WBSs. So if you notice, so all this green does not have any line anymore. I've taken that away. Um, but I might come to somebody's project and all of a sudden, I'm not seeing all these bars. I'm only just seeing this thing going like candles here and there. And I want to see just the summary so that I have a feel of the summary. So I'll look for summary. Yeah, this is summary current bars and I pick it. I don't like these arrows. It's showing me arrows and I want just cycles. Apply. And it's giving me cycle. So when I summarize, I'm going to activity, when I collapse all, it shows me one line and shows me where all my activities is most likely going to be. And it just gives me, okay, I'm talking to my director. I say maintain scope throughout the project. Design engineering will only take approximately 1 month, and then construction is throughout. And in between the design and the construction, we take procurement. So I'm just giving one line explanation to the whole project. So that's the advantage of having a summary bar. So let me go back again to all the project, expand all. Now that I've shown you the free float and um, the free float and the normal activities that doesn't have free float, sorry, that has free float, and the ones that don't have free float, the ones that don't have free float are most likely going to be zero, and the ones that have free float are more than zero. That's their 1, 2, 3 upward. Critical activities are more of the activities, or most often are the activities that their total float is zero, and they often take the longest part. Uh, so if you look at it, it's almost all the activities, but they often take the longest part, the longest route down to the finish date. So you might be asked during an interview, how do you define a total float and a free float? Their activities that their floats are zero, and they take the longest part. Their floats are zero, and when it's zero, it becomes critical. And when it's critical, it takes the longest part. And when it takes the longest part, it defines the it defines the nature or the attributes of your project. Now, having said that, your boss might come back to say, or the team might come back to say, actually, we spoke to the owner of the land, and the owner of the land said we can only start by August, first week in August. Can you please help me check what will happen to the finish date when we start first week in August? So I'm going to the status. Don't forget, this is July. I'm going to the status and I'm going to say, uh, I'm going to put a constraint. A constraint means that, uh, yeah, a constraint means that, okay, I want you to finish after. Sorry, I want you to start after August, first week in August. Let me say second, or let me say 9th of August, because I need to ask precisely when. It changed automatically because I put this. So let me take it away so that I keep doing the normal process, because not all the time we will be allowed to do that. So because of the constraint, it's turn one, two, three, four. Well, this wasn't critical, but it's turned three activities to non-critical. It started from the August date, the mobilization date. So what can affect the critical part? A constraint can affect the critical part. And there are different types of constraint. There is the finish on, that is, let this mobilization finish on this date. There is finish on or after, there is finish on or before, there is mandatory finish, whether we like it or not. There is mandatory start, there is start on, there is start on after, there is start on before. There is others called as late as possible. Yeah, as late as possible. And some I leave it as none. Now, all these can be divided into two. All these constraints can be divided into two. There is the hard constraint, there is the soft constraint. The soft constraint does not give, the soft constraint gives a leeway for things to go back and forth, go back and forth, go back and forth. That's if I say finish on or after, meaning that after the 13th of August, if the dates still keep moving, you can still just keep going after that. Mandatory finish means after the 13th of August, you cannot push the date at all, and that becomes a hard constraint. Hard constraint is it doesn't allow the activity to change. The soft constraint allows the activity to change. So that is that about hard, soft constraint. I can change it to a hard constraint and say mandatory start. So mandatory start, if I say all the projects should start, oh, let me take because that would affect the predecessor. Let me take the relationship I pushed in from other job away. So I'm going to click on remove and say, okay, I don't want other jobs to affect this. And I'm going to say start today. So it brings everything backward, but it still holds this as 27 because I've said mandatory start, whether all of you like it or not, mandatory start. So it still holds this at 27. If I say start on before, and when I click on that, despite that this is 27th, it still allow me to start on the 24th because it's on or before. So that's a soft constraint. I want to bring my activity back so that I see everything. I just double click as usual, put it per month, and I'm able to see everything that I'm doing. I'm able to see everything I'm doing. Now that would lead me to the last part, which is how do you present your work printing? After this, I would give you lots of assignments in between the two projects I've done, and you will be presenting to me what you have done. I'll be looking at what you have done. Um, you'll be presenting it to me on the WhatsApp. It wouldn't be in this class. This class is for the training, but you'll be presenting in WhatsApp, and I would like to see yours. I might call you out if you don't mind. If you want to, if you don't want to, it's fine. Just tell me privately that, oh, please, and I would listen. So, how do you present? How do you show your work? That will take me another 10 minutes. Now, I've just gone to this is the print buttons. These are the two print buttons. And through these two buttons, you can also get that from file. Uh, this is four, but these two buttons would lead me to all these buttons that we have here. So these two buttons does not necessarily mean that it's not everything. It's everything, but you could. So I'm going to print preview. I've clicked on the print preview. It's shown me the floats, which is what I want to present. That's the first thing that you must make sure that whatsoever you have here is what you want to present. I might say, okay, I want more. I want to present the budget and I want to take away the free float. I want to take away the late start and late finish, and I want to present budget. So I'm going here, budget costs, total budget, baseline. Not the baseline. We talk about baseline next week. Um, Budget. The budget is 100,000, and I'll click on this. So it shows me the budget, shows me the original duration, it shows me the percentage that no job has been done, it shows me the start and finish. It's what I want to present. And don't forget that what you want to present is not necessarily your choice. It has to be inclusively the team's choice. What does the team, when the team wants to see the project, how do you want them to see where they are or where they should be and things like that? So it's not necessarily your opinion alone, but how you think the project, the team would like to see the project. So I have put this here. Am I satisfied? Let's start with, am I satisfied with the text? Can I see everything that is here? If I'm not seeing it properly, I'm going to go to the page setup and I'm going to say adjust it to 120, or let's say adjust it to 100. I've adjusted it to 100. It looks really big. No, not too big to my liking. Let me adjust it. Then I'm looking at it that this seems to be this seems to be a little small. This seems to be rectangular, and I want it to be at the other side of rectangle so that it could be big enough. So I say, okay, I don't want it as portrait. I want it as a landscape. Yes, it's giving me what I want. Now that I've presented it in a landscape, do I like it like this? I want the text to be bigger again. So I can go give me 120. Now this is percentage to normal size. And trust me, you have to play with these numbers a lot to get, or let me start with 10. So you see how 10 looks like, and you see the reason why I put 90. This is 10. Did you see that? 10 looks way too small. So hence the reason why you see things like 100. Yeah, it's come back big. But now that it's come back as a big one, let me see. Let me see, 150. Okay, this is a big size for everybody to see. But notice that your Gantt chart, notice here that your Gantt chart is moved, but you want everything to be in one page. Then you click fit everything to one page. That is fit everything to one page. And you click on this and you look at the paper size, it's A3. So I think people like A3, and A3 is actually the standard according to paper standard. Because the paper, there's a paper standard which um, was actually derived from AutoCAD during the times of AutoCAD, where people use a lot of paper. Sorry, during the time of draftsmanship, yeah, sorry, not AutoCAD. During the time of draftsmanship, we always use A3 papers for design, A3 papers for presentation those days. And that has more or less cascaded into planning and design. When you are presenting your paper, it has to be in an A3 format so that people can see it. It has to be in an A2, most often an A3 format. So A3 has always been a standard. Who set the standard? Nobody can fully say this is it. So, but we use the normal standard legal, executive, B5, and things like that. So A3 has always been a general standard. I'm adjusting this to one paper, and I'm saying, okay, give me everything in one paper. Am I satisfied with the paper and the size of the paper? If I'm satisfied with this, and I feel this is a little bit big, I will go back again and then click and say, okay, make it 100, make it 100. Okay, I think I'm personally, I'm satisfied with this. Then the next point would be, how do you put the, how do you put the Gantt chart? Do you like the Gantt chart the way it is? There are different formats for Gantt chart. We have current date, that's today's date, and you want project finish, that's the finish time scale, project finish, or current month. Just show me current month and current date. No, not current month. Let me say earliest project starts and current month. Current month is December. So it starts in December and it's showing me only December. What is going to happen in December? So in December, 1, 2, 3, 4 will happen. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The rest is going to happen in January, July. So that's another way. And I said, okay, the current month, I want the current month plus 3 months as well. 3 months is December, January, February, March. So it's giving me January, February, March, and so it started with this 1, 2, 3, and put a little of April for me because I'm halfway into December. So it's also halfway into April. 1, 2, 3, March. So everything I'm looking at is March. So this is May because of the activity, not because of the Gantt chart. So all the activities, all the Gantt charts that is between December down to April is what has it has shown me. So this is another way of presenting it. And I said, just give me all the projects plus 1 month extra or plus 1 week. 1W is 1 week. 1M is 1 month. Minus 1 month plus minus 1 week. And I click here and say apply. And that shows me minus plus 1 month. So it finishes in September and gives me October. This starts in December, but it's giving me 1 week. So in between this little gap here is 1 week. And that's a way to present. I might take this off and say, I don't want to see that. And bring it back. I want to see that apply. Page 100. Please fit everything to one page. I don't want the other page to be showing any other thing. And it fits it to one page. And I'll click on that. Everything fits into one page. Now, next week, I'm going to talk about the margin Margin is something you can say, okay, the gap between these two lines, the gap between these two lines, the gap between these two lines, and the gap here, should it be zero point 0.5 or 1? 0.5 is a standard, hence the reason why you have 0.5. Header means what do you want? Let me go back again. Now that I've shown you all what I've shown you, the question you start asking me is how do I put all this here? How do I put all this here? And how do I put all this below? And this is where you go to the headers and the footers. Headers, footers. Options are play about with this table, play about with these three, but I've shown you this Gantt chart because these are because of presentation. This header, if you click on header and say, okay, I want either text or logo, it will show me text or logo. And in text, I might modify, I've clicked on this, so I'm modifying this, and I'm going here to say, give me the current user, or give me the data date, or give me the project name. And once I give me page number, once I click on page number and I say apply, it's going to give me a bracket and put page number. The bracket and put page underscore number. Project page underscore. That in itself is a command. You can type it there yourself. If you want to type it there, it will show the same thing. I'll click on OK, and it will put that there. I can push this here and push this as much as I want. And for this page, I may say layout name. I don't want layout name, so I'm going to modify. I don't want layout name. I want something else. I'll click here. What do I want here? Custom current month. Well, do I want current month or do I want image? I could put image or put project start. I could put total numbers of pages. Anything you want to put, you can add here. Anything you want to put, you can add here. And once you add it, let me see. Once you add it, then you would click on OK. And sorry, I didn't put current month. Let me just put data date, add value. So add value. Okay, so it's here. And I'll put apply. Now, if you notice, current month is turning to 23, current month is 23, my date, the time is putting the exact time. Sometimes you have to do that so that when you are submitting to clients, they know that this was the day you printed it. Now, how do you print? Next week, I'll pick on this as well, but how do you print? If you're satisfied with the presentation and the content and what you want to show your clients, click on the print and it takes you, do you want to print Microsoft to PDF or do you want to put it on desktop? Uh, do you want to check if it's landscape? So all this is the same printing requirement that it asks for numbers of copies. Then it asks me, where do I want to print it? Let me put it here. Uh, so it's asked me, where do I want to put it? Planning, training. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to open and see what I've done. And you see my screen on the PDF. Can you see what I've printed out?
No.
No.
Okay, let me see. Stop print.
No.
Because let me know if you're seeing it now. Okay, we should see it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so just as we have decided, it should be the project name at the top. You see, it showed me the exact time it printed. It's 10:27. Now, all that is my choice. All that is my choice. Please play about with it. You would make mistake, fine. Just play about with it. You have the group to raise questions when you want to. Now, all this the below is also a choice. And from planning principles, I always mention planning principle, because you have to acclimatize yourself with the planning principles. And planning principles are basic, and there are the complex ones. There are some you have to learn within the job. Now, some companies, some clients or managers will ask you, what does all this your Gantt chart means? And this is where they get that information from. It's also a standard that when you are submitting anything to the client, you don't assume. You have to be specific about everything, deliberate about everything. Hence, this Gantt chart, this table is very important. Page is page is there because I want the client, or I want the client, or the whoever is concerned to know that it's just one page. Tax filter, I might take away the filter, but if I need to show to the client, I might show them, okay, these are the filters I use. Well, Oracle is a standard, and everything is all within one page. Before submitting to the client, I look at everything. Okay, it's readable, it's feasible, the dates, the amount is there, commercial wise, the total budget is what we agreed on. Duration, I put D because I want them to see it's 25 days percentage. I'm okay with that. I don't want anybody to query me on anything. So I'm looking at everything relationship wise. I can look at all the activities. They have all the relationship. I'm showing the critical part and how the critical part affects the final date. And I've also showed summary. And this is what I want everybody to see with what I have done. If you're able to do this, all I have said from day one to now, you have understand and you understood all what I've done, then I would say that about 25 to 50% of what you necessarily need to know. There are other things that we are going to go much more faster than this. And that will be really going into detail, analytical about everything. And then we go deeper into cost, we go deeper into end value, we go deeper into schedule analysis, we go deeper into setting. But if you're able to come to this point, that you have your relationship proper, you have your activities, you're able to print it out, you're able to show your critical part, you know why your activities are critical, uh, you know, you know the durations, you understand why the durations are what they are, that I will say that you are 25 to 50% way through into the planning process. The next one is the analysis, and the analysis is because this is where you do more of the talk, and also the tools will help you to do more of the talks. Yes, sorry, I've gone really far beyond the time. I just felt I need to get to this place. If you have any questions, please raise up your hands. Let's tackle it. If you have any questions, please raise up your hand. I'm trying to get to. Any questions? Oh, okay, Tutu, could you please tell me?
Yeah, I already dropped a question in the chat, and it's concerning the solve and delete in relationship. I
Okay,
didn't really understand the difference, what they're supposed to do, because they both get taken away.
Yes, that's true. When you take away, when you dissolve an activity, you more or less cannot undo it back again. But the advantage of dissolving an activity is the preceding activity you want to dissolve and the succeeding activity you want to dissolve. When you dissolve that activity, it merges those two, it connects those two together. It creates an automatic relationship. It's just like the domino effect. Um, when you take okay, not the domino is not a good example, but generally when you dissolve an activity, you're also adding to that instruction of dissolving to link the predecessors of the activity you intend to dissolve and the successor of the activity you intend to dissolve, link it together. So let me give this example: A, B, and C. There's a relationship between A and B to C. When I take away B, when I dissolve B, I'm also saying that once I click on this dissolve, that A should link to C directly without me going to A and looking for C and linking them as a next action. And that's dissolve. The downside of dissolve is that once you remove it, you can't bring it back. It's gone. But delete an activity, you delete you want to delete B and it has A and C. When you delete B, A and C will still be hanging there without a predecessor and successor. So once you delete B, it means you have to go to A and look for what to link A to as its successor, and go to C and click on what to link C to as its predecessor. And that's the difference. The advantage is that you can undo it, but there is a limit to the undo because after a long time, that command remains almost permanent.
Okay, thank you. Makes sense now.
Yeah. Any other person? Okay.
Hi, Magda. Sorry.
I have another question.
Okay. Sorry, let me give to the.
Okay, cool.
No, let Ade go. Let Ade go. I'll go after Ade.
No, I'll wait for the lady to go first. So
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
My question is concerning adding when you are adding resources, when it's material and you're adding tons. So I
Yeah.
found out that when I was doing it and adding changing the 8 days and I added 1 tons to it, it
Yeah.
didn't change for me at all. So it kept on reverting back to 1 day instead of changing to it, despite the fact that I already changed the units of measurement to tons.
Yeah. We would deal with that next week. I will put that in mind. There is it requires settings. It requires
Okay.
activity. Let me remember the word properly. It requires activity. Yeah, it requires duration type. Um, it also requires us to look at the settings in the unit of measurement because there are
Mm.
three aspects to this, and that is why resource is almost like a large topic in itself. There are three aspects to this. Sometimes you change the tons, then you have to change the rate at which the tons will be being burnt down per day, and then you allow the system to automatically run that relationship. Sometimes you go, which is the second type, whereby you have to do that setting yourself, make the calculation, When you make the calculation, then you can then start changing it yourself. The third type is that you just set a standard and say 50 tons, whether you spend 100 days or 100 years, is going to be 50 tons. So all that three scenarios, we have to do that separately so that you understand it fully. I rushed into that because I wanted to show budgeted cost. I wanted to show budgeted units so that if you want to make presentations, you can say, okay, I want to show my clients the costs. I want to show my clients unit. So I did that purposely because I wanted us to have a feel of presenting, printing out and presenting to the client or to anybody you want to present your project to.
Okay, thank you.
Ade,
Magnus, I guess this is more from a clarification than a question, and it's regarding the critical part. Um, so this printout that you're currently sharing, um, is this what you present if you're asked to show the critical part?
um, this is for the whole page, for the whole work, not just the critical part. It's all inclusive. If you see the green part, if you remember this trial version, that's line number 8 or so, where the trial version is. It's just a green 5 days duration. So it's all included. It's having this one too as well. So we have just three. Uh, it's all included. Critical part, if you want me to show just the critical part or the client requires just the critical part, that's when we start using other tools called the filter, which I didn't show. I was even intending to do part of what I wrote here was I should talk of filters and group and sort, but I don't think we can jump into that. So it would have just been only the ones with red, and that would just be the critical part. Analytically, if you stand before an experienced client, he will disagree with all this, that everything in your project cannot just be critical. It means that what I've presented is almost like a waterfall. A waterfall project. A waterfall project is that everything goes sequence, and which is what my project is showing, sequence. So because it's everything is almost sequence, finish start, finish start, finish start, finish start, finish start. Uh, it's also showing that there is no agile, or there is not enough agile in the whole process. So a client would an experienced client will reject it and say, no, 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 no. Somebody's somebody's stealing time here, which is true. Everything cannot be finished, start, finish, start, finish, start. There's only one, two, three agile approach, and even this we wouldn't call it an agile because after this is the finish of the project. Why do you leave it here? We might say, oh yeah, we wanted to do agile. We'll say, but okay, don't play fool with me. Try a version. So there's a lot here that people can challenge. Even as I'm looking at my project, I will say all the delivery still sections. Why should all the delivery still sections carry 50%, almost 50% of the project? Delivery is taking 50% of the project, and assembling the project is taking only 30 or 20% of the project. No, something is fishing, So those are things, but in summary, it's a combination of everything, and you can filter out um, the non-criticals using just a click of a button.
Thank you. It's good to know.
Yeah. Any other person? Okay. Thanks a lot, everyone. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. Please um, look out for the questions I would ask in the group. and please try and solve them before the next meeting. I'll be more than happy to look at them. And if you have any questions, feel free to add more. Feel free to add more questions. Who is T?
Good morning. This is T. Please, is it possible you give us a possible or likely duration for all these activities and the projects that you are giving to us, and the relationship as well, so that we'll be able to present it in a good manner, so we can.
It's not exactly this project. This one was something I
Yeah,
created
it could
while I
be.
was.
It could. Okay. It could. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
When you give
the
us
one
the.
sent,
Okay.
yeah, the one I sent in the Excel sheet is quite massive, and I deliberately made it massive because I want you to be very tired while you are doing the activities.
Yeah.
It's almost about 200 activities. I want you to be tired because the job requires you to use your tools almost every day. So I sent an Excel sheet. Please have a look or talk to your colleagues, and they would be able to show you what I have presented. Just to say this here, there are some of you. Kudos to some of you. You did all the two projects that I sent, the 200 and the 600, which is about 800 worth of projects, activities. The WBS is so massive, and some of you have finished everything. I was impressed. I didn't express it when I saw it. Then there is someone here who has also gone for an interview, and I've putting her in my thoughts, and wishing her all the best. She's gone for about about three interviews now. So I'm sure that by January, February, we start getting into that preparatory phase of being suitable for interviews. I would interview you myself, ask you all the questions so that you look at me. It's going to be a one-to-one video. You look at me to my eyeballs. I'll look at you, look at your eyes. I'll look at your chin. I'll look at your shoulders, the gesture, look at your hands. I will look at the outfit you wore. And I would look at everything just as I did to others in other companies when I'm interviewing people. I would look at everything, and if you fail, I will tell you to your face. Well, I won't say you fail. I will tell you in the white man's way. You didn't. You tried. You did your best, but it wasn't up to what we might employ you for. Things like that. So thanks a lot. See you later. See you next week. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus.
Yeah, thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you very much, sir.